People will often say, well, okay, I'm supposed to grieve. How do I do that? Well, besides feeling what you feel and receiving or accepting permission to be somebody who's grieving, to be a mess, to be confused, to be devastated, there is something I call grief work. There are things that you need to experience, need to go through in order to, at some point, come out the other side. Grief work is difficult. It is painful. It is very difficult to manage. But unless you work at your grief, unless you do the business necessary, I would suggest that you will never heal or never have the opportunity to mend from this tremendous loss and the tremendous hurt that you feel. Grief work has a couple of important sections. The first is to realize what has happened to you. Now that might sound silly if you've never been through grief, but again, if we're talking about the death of someone who's been very close to you, there is a kind of unrealness to the whole thing. Did that really happen? Am I dreaming? Is this going to be better tomorrow? Is the phone going to ring and it's going to be her? Is there going to be a knock on the door and it's going to be him? Am I going to receive an email telling me this has all been some sort of bad dream or sick practical joke? Realizing that someone you care for has died takes a significant period of time. The brain, the psyche simply doesn't allow you to say, oh yeah, my son, my daughter, my husband, my wife, whoever it is, oh yeah, they've died. Okay, I get it. No, it takes a long period of time. And during that, everything is fuzzy. People often don't know their email address or their telephone number. They sometimes forget where they live. Even though they've driven home the same way hundreds of thousands of times, they forget how to get home. All of that fuzziness is associated with beginning to realize that there's an enormous change in your daily routine, in your reality, in what you did, who you were, what you held on to, what you believed in. It's all been turned upside down. First and foremost, you have to realize that the person has died. Once you finally get a grip on that and say, gee, I'm beginning to grasp what's happened, then you must recognize the significance that this loss holds for you. So in the case of the death of someone important, when you're finally able to say, okay, my partner, my lover, my child has died, what does that mean for me? What does it mean for me on a day-to-day basis? How has my daily routine changed? And what does it mean for me tomorrow? What do I have to look forward to? All of the plans are gone. All of my hopes have changed. All of my goals are now wiped out. And in order to realize what it means to be without that person, the time frame can often be up to a year. Because today is the 15th of June. And so today is the first 15th of June that you have been without your partner who died, by way of example. Next 15th of June, if you have worked at your feelings, if you have worked at the reality of them being gone and begun to recognize what it means, then the next 15th of June will be the second time around and it should be less painful. First Christmas, first birthday, first anniversary, first other significant holiday or event. Very painful because you haven't been through it before. Realize the death has taken place or the grief event has taken place. That takes a while, weeks to months. Recognize the significance of the loss. That can take up to a year easily. And yet, after 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 days, people really expect you to be back to work, back on your game, have things the way they used to be. Impossible. So we develop a mask, we develop a routine, we begin to tell people what they want to hear, but the hurt hasn't gone away. Things have not resolved.